Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is very close to release now, and it's finally gonna give us a better look at what Square Enix is planning with this whole remake trilogy. And as someone who really loves the original Final Fantasy VII, really loves Remake, and didn't really vibe with the rest of the compilation, I wanted to talk about it before it releases. In this video, I'm just gonna be talking about my quick pre-release thoughts, as I usually do on my channel, but if you're interested in more, right after this video, I'm uploading a second video, in which I talk about all of this with a good friend and fellow content creator Nishquick. While this video is more scripted and I'm talking about where I'm at with Rebirth, that one is more of a casual lore speculation podcast kind of thing, so if you're interested in that, be sure to check it out. And if you like content like this, also be sure to subscribe, as I make a lot of content on both JRPGs and PlayStation. My Final Fantasy VII journey started off in 2020 with the release of Remake. I wasn't really in the RPG sphere, so my knowledge wasn't much more than, oh, this is that game that people like, about the guy with the big sword. And because everyone loved it and it got such amazing reviews, I just picked it up, played through it, and really enjoyed my time with it. It had some issues, especially pacing-wise, but I ended up really enjoying it. I especially just loved this world and these characters. So when I finished it, and when I found out this was only a small segment of the OG, I immediately jumped into that game and absolutely fell in love with it. Even if I played it in 2020, 23 years after it originally released, I was completely blown away by it. It felt magical to leave Midgar and to see the world open up for the first time. It was incredible to see how the story of these characters continues, but it was just as incredible to meet the new characters, to find out more about Sephiroth, learning about Jenova and the Ancients, finding out about Zack, just everything. Final Fantasy VII quickly became a very special game to me. So fast forward to now, and I've experienced a lot more of the 7 universe, with Crisis Core Reunion, Dirge Cerberus, On the Way to a Smile, and Advent Children. But most of the content in the compilation was honestly very hit or miss for me. Instead of further exploring these characters and giving them more depth, the compilation kind of just felt like it wanted to one-up the original, introducing things like Deep Ground, Project G, Geostigma, Genesis, Hollander, you name it. While there were cool concepts and ideas here, they were often quite poorly executed, focusing on the wrong aspects, having plotlines that completely retcon the original, while not even making sense in their own continuity. A lot of characters, because of this, also lack depth, have missed potential, or are just not very well written. I'm not gonna dissect all of my problems with the compilation, because that's not really the point here. Maybe I'll do it another day, but after my compilation playthrough, I was honestly very worried about Rebirth. I even started thinking about things like, would I even like Remake if I would replay it? I liked it back in 2020, but would I still like it now? What if the remake is just more of the compilation bullshit and I just didn't see it at the time or didn't understand it? And because of this, I was more scared or worried about Rebirth than excited. So in January of 2024, I replayed Remake, and to my surprise, I loved it even more than I did in 2020. Having the knowledge of the original transformed this game into so much more. And while it's definitely changing stuff, Remake is honestly relatively faithful. It sticks to the major plot beats while integrating and foreshadowing late game plotlines in an honestly masterful way. And above all, unlike the compilation, everything made sense and it was well written. Even if it's introducing parts of the compilation, even if it's doing all of this crazy stuff with the whispers and fate and knowledge of past timelines, while right now a lot of that was still setup and mysteries, it's building those mysteries in a way that makes sense, and because of that, I'm willing to keep an open mind to this trilogy. I'm willing to see where Nomura is taking this. Replaying Remake was honestly one of the best things that I could have done, because while I am still cautious and I'm a bit skeptical for where they're taking this, I'm also finally genuinely excited now. Which then of course brings us to Rebirth, and all of the stuff that I talked about until now definitely makes this the strangest hype cycle leading up to a game that I've ever had, because while I do really love Remake, it is still the first part of the trilogy. As I said before, a lot of it is still just setup. It asks a lot of questions and we don't get answers to a lot of them. Things like the Whispers or Sephiroth's true goal, changing destiny, those those elements were there, but up until the final hours, they were more of a background element, making it so that the main focus of Remake was, you know, remaking the original story. And that's then also what I loved about it the most, seeing moments and locations that we know and love from OG being recreated in Remake. But then in the end, we do start setting up this whole thing with the cast seeing glimpses from the original ending, them defeating Fate, them facing off against Sephiroth already. From the Rebirth trailers, we can see that the remake elements will still be there, like Nibelheim, the Gold Saucer, or Cosmo Canyon. All of those places and events will be there and they will be recreated. It even looks like they will be pretty faithful, but because this is the second part of the trilogy, all of the strange defeating Fate shenanigans won't just be set up anymore. We're either going to be actively exploring that element and step away further from the original story as we progress through Rebirth, making it so that part 3 might actually be something completely different, or we're gonna stick close enough to the original so that we still have those remake moments, so that we're still hitting those main plot lines, setting us on our way for part 3, while at the same time kinda just playing around with the crazier elements on the side, like in Zack's timeline. Right now, we have no idea, but depending on how Rebirth turns out, we'll definitely have answers for that. As much as Remake was the beginning of this story, Rebirth is definitely gonna be shaping it. Right now, we kind of don't know what this trilogy is trying to be yet. Is it a remake? Is it a remake that includes part of the compilation? Is it a sequel? Is it something entirely different with a plot that will heavily diverge? With the way that Remake ends, they kind of have to diverge already, and it can't just be a remake anymore, or that ending led to absolutely nothing. Like I talked about in my previous Final Fantasy video, I don't think they can be a remake while also being this crazy changing fate story. I feel like you're gonna have to pick a direction, and we're gonna see that direction in Rebirth. Which is then also why I'm still a bit skeptical about it, because while I really love what was there in the remake, including the Whisper stuff, it is extremely risky to be doing this. To take this beloved game from 1997, give it the dream treatment of remaking it with this much passion poured into everything, but then also making it look like they're completely changing the story. It's a very ballsy move. It's already confirmed to not be 100% accurate as well, like that's pretty obvious at this point. It's already strayed too far for that, but I do wonder how far they're gonna take this, and I also wonder if they're gonna be able to pull it off in a satisfying way. Like, don't get me wrong, I am keeping an open mind to all of this. I'm not going into Rebirth with a negative mindset just because they're changing stuff, but if they are changing things this drastically, it better be worth it. Because right now, the way that I see it, the remake trilogy is kind of walking on a tightrope. If they can make it all the way to the end while telling a satisfying story and also while respecting the original, then this could end up being fucking incredible. But at the same time, they could easily mess this up, especially keeping in mind how hit and miss the compilation was. What they're trying to do here is no easy task, and if they mess it up by making this new story overly complicated or by telling a story that just fails to reach the bar set by the original, then the whole trilogy will be such a wasted opportunity for an actual remake of this beloved classic. But again, it could end up being incredible. As much as I don't like most of the compilation, it had some genuinely great ideas. And from the looks of it, this remake trilogy is incorporating a lot of those ideas. It's kinda like they're taking elements from those games and trying again. But instead of tacking on more stories and lore whenever they release a new title, they're hopefully going into this with a clear vision, and that can already bring them very far. So in a way, I do think that this can kind of fix the compilation. Like, let's just look at Zack for example. He is a very major character in both the compilation and this remake trilogy now. And while I like Zack, he was probably the best part of Crisis Core, he's not perfect, because he was stuck in the game with not very good writing and very cringy dialogue. While here, Remake has already proved that they know how to write a good story. They already proved that they understand these characters, and as a bonus, the dialogue in Remake also feels very natural. So I'm personally just super excited to see Zack again, so he can actually reach his full potential. Same thing with the characters that I maybe didn't like as much, like Deepground returning. While they were far from being even remotely good in the compilation, this remake trilogy could fix that. We haven't seen enough of them for me to really say that I already like them, but I did like their introduction a lot more than anything we've seen from them in Dirge. So if they end up showing up in Rebirth or in Part 3, or if Genesis shows up, another character that I don't really like, I'm still gonna keep an open mind to it because they could fix these characters here in theory. But all of this compilation stuff does make me wonder again, how big will that aspect be in this remake trilogy? Because things like Genesis or Deepground or even some aspects of Zack's story isn't really OG material. A lot of it doesn't even make sense in the context of OG, no matter how much Dirge or Crisis Core tries to force these elements into the OG storyline. It doesn't work. So what are they gonna do with those aspects in Remake? Will they just show up every now and then while we're following the OG story? Like, it's already confirmed that we're running into Cisne in Gongaga, and she's honestly very easy to integrate without diverging from the main plot too much. But on the other side, we do have stuff like Zack being alive, which is a massive thing. Right now, at the end of Remake, it does seem like he's in his own timeline, so this does give them the opportunity to explore his character and some of the compilation stuff without interfering with the main remake plot, I guess, too much, but I also doubt that it's gonna stay that way. I just can't see this trilogy ending without these timelines crossing over at one point. And if they do, then what's this story gonna become? Are we completely gonna throw away key moments like Cloud remembering his past? Is Aerith still gonna die? Cloud's whole realization can't really work if Zack is right there. That whole plot twist and reveal won't carry as much weight if Zack is right there in Rebirth. And Aerith dying, just Aerith's fate, is also something that they're using in the marketing a lot. But how much can they realistically change about these aspects without completely changing the story of Final Fantasy VII? Or are we still gonna have these moments happen, but they'll just be under completely different circumstances in a completely different context? There are so many things that we don't know, and while on one hand that is very exciting and I do have faith in the developers, and while I also just really want to know the answers to those questions, I can't help but worry about what this game and especially Part 3 is gonna be like. A lot of things right now are pointing towards this trilogy becoming something completely different, but at the same time I do think like, it's Final Fantasy VII. It's one of the biggest games of all time, one of the most beloved stories in gaming. Are they really gonna change it that drastically? Would they really market this as a remake if it's just something completely different? Especially because with Rebirth they are showing a lot of new stuff, yeah, but you're also still saying, yes, this is a remake, and we are seeing moments like Nibelheim. We also know that Wutai is gonna be in Part 3, so for those things to happen, it would have to be at least somewhat faithful, right? And also because even if Remake Part 1 was good, a lot of people's favorite parts of that game, me included, were the faithful recreations and the revisiting of iconic locations and scenes. Do they really have the balls to just say fuck you, fuck the original, every single part is gonna stray further and further away from the original because this is a story that we wanna tell? And if they are saying that, I don't know what to think of that yet, until we see more of it. Again, it could end up being incredible, but it could also just be a wasted opportunity. But at the same time, I do kinda respect it. I feel like creators and writers should be able to just tell the story that they wanna tell, but if they keep straying further, again, it has to be good to justify it in a way. And again, with all the setup that they've done with Fate and the Whispers, they're gonna have to diverge to pay off the ending to Part 1 in a satisfying way. I feel like I'm kinda starting to go in circles though, so I'm gonna start closing off the video with some of my final thoughts. I do also really hope that I didn't sound too negative during this video, because I am really looking forward to this game, but I feel like skepticism skepticism is kind of unavoidable with a project like this. I am genuinely super excited though, especially to see stuff from the original be recreated and to see these characters again. The little interactions that they had in Remake were awesome, and I can't wait to explore this world with the gang. I'm also super excited to just see Vincent again, and Sid and Kate Sif, and I'm super hyped to see Yuffie meet the rest of the gang, to see Costa del Sol, to play through Nibelheim. I am 100% sure, without a doubt, that I'm going to adore those aspects. But again, I am a bit scared for everything else, with Zack or them possibly changing Aerith's fate. Not because I necessarily think that it's gonna be bad, but just because it's so risky and because there's so much that we don't know yet. I just want Rebirth to answer some of my questions, because part of me honestly does kind of love this thing of not knowing what's going on and we're kind of just figuring it out piece by piece. But part of me hates it, because I love the original so much, and I just want to know what they're doing with that story. I want to know what they're doing with that game, and I really want Rebirth to answer some questions for my own sanity. Oh, by the way, I also didn't mention the gameplay at all up to this point, but let's be honest, that's because we all know that this game is gonna be fucking fantastic gameplay-wise. Remake's combat was already one of my favorite combat systems ever, and Rebirth just looks like it took it and is improving on everything. The way that the open world seems to be integrated also looks really fucking awesome. I love that there's seamless exploration, and that you're not gated by invisible walls, as you can climb up things with chocobos, you can fly on chocobos, you can swim, you have the tiny Bronco. All of that looks fucking incredible. All of the different minigames as well, and the different aspects of growing closer to the side characters through the interactions and the side quests. Visuals as well, of course. The recreated locations look fucking phenomenal. The OST is also gonna be so fucking good. It's coming on like 8 discs or something. It's going to be massive. The game itself is coming on 2 discs, so I can't fucking believe that, honestly. Like, in a vacuum, purely as a game, this will no doubt be fantastic. I know that it's only February, but I can easily see this becoming Game of the Year of 2024. It's just that, as a remake, if we take it out of that vacuum, as a remake, I am still a bit skeptical with this direction. The way that it's being released in 3 parts also isn't helping with that, since there's like 3-4 years between each game, and it's really hard to say whether I'm liking these games or not, because we literally just don't know what's going on yet. I'm also just thinking, like, if this is what Rebirth looks like, if this is the amount of content in Rebirth, what the fuck is part 3 gonna be like? How are they ever gonna top this? This game genuinely just looks insane. But at the same time, looking at all of this and looking at how much work they're putting into this, looking at how they're handling this remake with so much passion and care, it honestly sometimes just makes me think, like, man, even if this is good, even if this remake is incredible, I honestly just want a Final Fantasy VII remake. And that's fucking crazy to say, considering that we're kind of getting a remake in 3 parts, but it's different. Nomura is being silly about it, he's changing a lot of stuff around. I mean, like, I genuinely just want a Final Fantasy VII remake that's super faithful, kind of like Persona 3 Reload is, or like a Dead Space remake is. But we're probably not getting that, because we're getting this, and that's what I'm referring to whenever I say in this video, like, this has to be good or it's a waste of potential. Like, all of the story changes, this new direction of this remake trilogy has to be good, or otherwise they should have just made a normal fucking remake. But yeah, I'm kind of starting to rant on a little bit. TLDR, I am very, very excited. I literally cannot wait. But I am also scared, but I am also really hyped. Basically, Final Fantasy VII is driving me insane. Let me know all of your thoughts in the comments below. I'm genuinely really curious. And again, if you want to hear me ramble about this game more, but not alone with a friend, Nishquick, I'll have a link in the description as soon as it's uploaded. I'm not sure how I'm gonna do it yet. I'm either gonna upload it in 24 hours from releasing this video, or I'm gonna release it like an hour later. I don't know. I'll figure it out. Thanks for watching though, I really appreciate it. Leave a like, subscribe, and comment your thoughts. I'm genuinely really interested to see what other people are thinking about this, because again, this game is kind of driving me insane. But that's it for this video. Thank you for watching, I hope you enjoyed, and hopefully I'll see you all again soon.